No child enters the world carrying a detailed racial ideology, but every child enters a world already filled with ideas. Ideas about belonging, ideas about difference, about who is safe, who is dangerous, and sometimes who should be hated. A child can inherit an enemy before ever meeting the person they have been taught to fear. But children eventually become adults, and inherited ideas become adult choices. Some people carry those ideas for years, some for decades, and some build identities around them. We already understand that racial hatred can injure the people against whom it is directed. But tonight, we are asking another question. What happens inside the person who carries the hatred? What happens to the mind, the emotions, the relationships, the body? A prejudiced mind relies on mental shortcuts. Through confirmation bias, a person notices information that confirms existing expectations, while discounting or reinterpreting evidence that contradicts them. A single negative encounter becomes proof. A positive one becomes an exception. Maintaining hostility requires constant rehearsal. This is anger rumination, the process of replaying an offense and revisiting anger long after an encounter has ended. The event may be over, but inside the person, it continues. Anger is a physiological state. It involves the body. Heart rate changes, blood pressure changes. The sympathetic nervous system triggers a cascade of stress-related biological responses. These responses are human. The danger lies in frequency, duration, intensity, and constant repetition. Scientific research has found associations between chronic hostility and cardiovascular outcomes. This does not mean hatred automatically causes heart disease, and this documentary will not claim that racism is the direct cause of an individual's illness. However, the evidence establishes an important principle. Persistent hostility is not confined to thought. The body participates in the emotional life of the carrier, maintaining a state of continuous vigilance. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, Arno Michaelis became deeply involved with racist skinhead culture and white power organizing. His identity became intertwined with an ideology built on conflict. The movement supplied him with a social framework. It provided community, a sense of belonging, and a clear purpose, all centered around identifying and attacking enemies. In his own testimony, Michaelis described his life during those years as a cycle of violence, fear, and addiction. While the ideology promised strength, the daily experience of carrying it was characterized by toxicity. When asked what ultimately caused him to change direction, he used a specific word. Michaelis described his own experience exhaustion. His experience raises the central question: can hatred become heavy? At what point does the energy required to maintain an enemy outweigh the belonging the group provides? Michaelis's ideology eventually faced a contradiction. People he was taught to hate began treating him with kindness. This created a friction that abstract ideas could not resolve. Real people began interfering with his hatred. This aligns with decades of research on intergroup contact theory. Meta-analyses of hundreds of studies suggest that meaningful contact between groups typically reduces prejudice. Researchers have identified two primary drivers for this change: a reduction in anxiety and an increase in empathy and perspective-taking. We see this in the historical case of C.P. Ellis. In 1971, the Durham Klan leader served as co-chair of a school desegregation process alongside Black activist Ann Atwater. 10 days of forced practical contact led Ellis to publicly renounce the Klan and destroy his membership card. Johnny Lee Clary experienced a similar disruption. As a Klan leader, he found his worldview failing when Black minister Wade Watts refused to respond to his provocations with hatred. Clary began to see Watts as a man rather than a category. Distance allows imagination to define an enemy. Contact allows actual human beings to interfere with that imagination. When an abstract enemy becomes an identifiable person, the individual faces a choice: adapt to the reality of that person's humanity, or work twice as hard to preserve a belief that experience has proven false. Researchers distinguish between behavioral disengagement, simply quitting a group, and deeper ideological change. Transformation is not defined by the moment someone walks away, but by what they do in the decades that follow. For Tony McAllier, leaving required confronting the emotional needs the movement once satisfied. He underwent years of counseling to address his radicalization, eventually traveling to Auschwitz in a process of atonement and confronting the actual consequences of his former ideology. Arno Michaelis redirected his life toward violence prevention and counter-extremism work. He moved from propagating the movement to helping other families escape it. The depth of this shift is visible in his relationship with Pardeep Kaleka. Kaleka's father was killed in the 2012 white supremacist attack on the Sikh temple of Wisconsin. Though Michaelis had participated in the world that produced such violence, the two men formed a friendship and co-authored a book against hatred. Transformation does not erase the harm a person has already done. It cannot. But it changes the trajectory of their remaining years, replacing abstract enemies with actual human relationships. For both Michaelis and Michaeler, fatherhood was the ultimate disruption. Watching their daughters interact with the world forced them to confront their inheritance. They realized the cost of their hatred was no longer confined to them. Abandoning hatred accomplishes something larger than changing one adult. It interrupts the transmission. One generation can decide, I received this, but I will not give it to my child. We began by asking what hatred costs the person who carries it. We found no single answer, but science tells us that persistent hostility has consequences. How much energy does it take to keep another human being your enemy for an entire lifetime? To continually notice them, judge them, fear them, and resent them? What is carrying this hatred costing you? And who might you become if you finally put it down?